One thing I've learned from working at SCAN is that we don't prepare. We have lunch and learns all the time where we talk about preparation. Preparation is key. What's your next step? What would you do if this happened? How would you manage in an emergency? If you had to go to a rehab, what do you do when you're discharged from the hospital? Preparation is really key. And today, that's what we're going to talk about. So if you want to know more, just stay tuned. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to SCAN FYI. My guest today is Robin Rivera. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning. How are you, Andrea?
I'm doing very well, and today, we're talking about preparation. And before we even do that, Robin, please just introduce yourself a little bit and tell everyone what is your role at Red Bank Rehab.
At Red Bank Center for Rehabilitation and Wellness, actually healing, big name, we all call it Red Bank Rehab. I am their business development director as well as their nurse liaison. So I've been a nurse for 32 years, um, mostly in geriatric care and senior care. And I get to go out to the hospitals and visit patients that may have questions about the next steps and how to prepare for their discharge from the hospital and evaluate their clinical records and just say, how we can benefit them for a week or two, sometimes longer, before going home to make sure that when they do go home, it's safely and they don't wind up rehospitalized. It's actually a wonderful position because I get to be a part of the team inside the facility, and yet be in the hospitals working with the other professionals in our community that have the same goal for the patients.
Now, obviously we talked about, I just said about so many people are just not prepared. And even though, we're doing lunch and learns all the time for years, and we always talk about preparation, I find that most people, they're not prepared. And you always think, well, it's not about me, it's about you. And one day it is going to be about you or a loved one, a family member, and you'll be saying to yourself, oh, I wish I had been prepared. But do you
Mhm.
find that to be the case too?
I do. I think oftentimes we think we're either too young for an episode to happen, or maybe we feel a lot younger than our age. And so we work out or we're healthier these days. People eat better. There are a large percentage of people that are really taking accountability for their mind, body, soul wellness, and they don't think it can happen to them. Unfortunately, we know genetics and things that are hereditary or things that our bloodline may be prone to can happen at any age. And so
Hmm.
then you can experience something, like a stroke or a heart attack, and then find yourself in a situation where they say you've had surgery and now you need rehab. You need to build your body back up before being totally independent on your own at home. And for the younger people, we heal a little sooner. As you age, you have that mindset that I'm independent at home and I can take care of myself. But our bodies take longer to heal as we get older. So I
Yes.
often find a very alert and oriented 82-year-old has now had her or his first hospitalization and is being told they need rehab. And it can be scary. And you're not really prepared for that ever. But our children should be, the children of those individuals should learn more and be prepared in case it happens to their mother, father, or themselves, and God forbid, a child.
Well, the thing is too, you can be involved in a car accident. You can
Mm-hmm.
have more injuries happen in the house. You can get hurt falling off a ladder in your kitchen. So I feel like, these are not things that are exclusive to older adults. You can be
Mm-hmm.
35 perfectly healthy and need to be in a rehab situation. And that's the part that people don't ever think about. So they're not prepared because it's never going to happen to me. But how do you become prepared? Or I totally agree with you that as someone in the sandwich generation, you should know a little bit more about this because if one of your older parents needs this, they may not be able to fend for themselves, right? And it might be up to you to help them. So the big question to answer is, how does one prepare themselves or prepare for a parent? It's a big question.
I often say that I think it should be a course in college, and quite honestly, in high school, we have remember all the years of home economics and cooking
Yes,
classes, and we all had to take shop. Whether you were a male, female, had any interest in it, you had to take those things. I really think the ultimate dream would be for even if it was just a 3 session course that kind of enlightened people at any age, whether I said like high school or college, for preparedness, for loving and caring for the elderly, and for any member in your family. But I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Um,
probably
Unfortunately,
not.
I think it is one of those things that we need to learn from our peers as well. Often I'm getting phone calls as the nurse in the family. My family calls me immediately, and my best friends call me immediately. But some of my friends that I've been friends with my whole life, I'm blessed with friends that I've had since elementary school. They call me after the parent's been in the hospital. They've gone to a rehab and they're not happy. Then they call me to fix it. If I can recommend anything, it's we all know either a physician, a nurse, a CNA, anybody that works in a facility or a hospital. We all know somebody, right? And it's, I think, important to keep that person on speed dial, have them in your list of favorite
That's very,
contacts.
yeah, that's good.
You know,
Yeah,
we all have a neighbor, we all have somebody that's an EMT, or every single one of us, a police officer in town, that know these facilities, right? And know the hospitals inside and out. If anything, they get the beat on the streets of how everybody runs their operation, or where they get positive feedback from. But we
yeah.
know most people spread the bad news and they don't really spread the good news. And I think if we stay connected with our peers, we have somebody on speed dial for that emergent moment, and they say, "Oh, let me call Robin, because I don't know, this could lead, if now we're going into surgery, she may need rehab, or she may need." And I think if you have that one person that you call, it's important to call early. It's important to call when somebody has multiple hospitalizations, because let's say congestive heart failure, if you're having 2 or 3 hospital visits in a quarter of the year, in a quarter, you, it is leading towards the inevitability of either extent more care at home,
Right.
um, more assistance at home, maybe assisted living, maybe, and those are things that, they become inevitable with certain diagnoses, and we're seeing them: CHF, COPD, diabetes type 2, neuropathy, peripheral vascular disease, things like that are going to only lead to more care needed. And it could be any level. And there's so many wonderful home care agencies, and there's palliative care and hospice for home or for in a setting. There are things available. It's not all scary. It's just knowing somebody in your area that can really guide you or help you,
Mhm.
to give you a little insight on what might be appropriate, for somebody as they're aging or as their condition is worsening.
I think most people, because again, we're thinking it's not going to happen to me, it's going to happen to you. So we don't think about it until we're practically driving home from the hospital and we're
Mhm.
thinking, what am I going to do now? When of course, and if you don't make any plans before you leave the hospital, right, the hospital is going to make the plans for you. You might not get what you want.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they don't really even make the plan. They often hand you a list.
Oh, yeah,
They
yeah.
hand you
And
a list, and there could be 15 facilities, 20 facilities on there. And they tell you to pick one. And it's not a dig at the hospital, or it's just they have so many people to follow
yes,
every single day. And their conditions in the hospital can fluctuate from day to day. The social worker's assignment can change from day to day. So it is a little difficult, but I do stress to people looking for facilities all the time, go see it, smell it, get a vibe. Don't announce you're coming. don't make an appointment for your tour. Most facilities are visiting hours 8 to 8. You've got that whole day to pop in and see the facilities, but not every person has that advantage. Not every person is driving themselves around all day to look at a facility for their husband when they're in their 80s. So I think it's important to call in and ask questions of the facility or go to their websites. But it is hard. It's hard for the planning process, and they don't they send a lot of people home from observation status, and that individual doesn't benefit then from getting stronger or getting subacute rehab or acute care, let's say Encompass Health or JRI. There's several hospitals that have a Johnson Rehab Institute in them, and so it's hard because they're not getting educated on the options either. But that's why it's important, and I think with things that you do, with what SCAN does, and what our community and professional networking does, is just constant education to our community, senior centers. We are out there helping,
Right.
but like you said, a lot of people don't listen or think it's going to affect them. And I've had times where people call me and say, I pulled out your card from one of the events. I need help. And that's when I guess if you could reach one person, it feels great, but you'd like to reach everybody.
Yeah, you would. You would. So, of course, at SCAN, we have lunch and learns and we have all kinds of events. And I mean, honestly, the main reason we do this is not because we want to be so hospitable. It's because
Mm-hmm.
we want to introduce the public to community partners, just so that you would, oh, I met Robin. Okay, she's at this place, or this place specializes in this, and just our goal is to raise awareness. But if you're like someone maybe in your 40s or your 50s, Robin, and you've got like aging parents, and you are attempting to plan ahead. You can't be going, let's say, to scans, lunch and learns. You're working. So what
Mm-hmm.
might be something that somebody does just to kind of get a feel for what's available in my neck of the woods?
I think the 40 and 50 age group and are primarily turning to online services and the internet. I mean, the beautiful part about the internet is, as damaging as it can be in some ways,
Yeah.
you can put in a very specific question and it will pull up options. You can put in the area code and it pulls up what's close to you. Most people in their 40s and 50s aren't exploring elder law attorneys or the process for their parent. I can tell you just by my own experience, and I'm in this world, that when my dad pulled out recently his will to go over things, I can't even tell you what the date was on it. It was very old, and I was shocked because here I am preaching it to people, right, on a
Yeah.
constant basis. And I talked to him about the five wishes and the pulsed and just this next chapter of life because he's 82. And my youngest sister wasn't on the will, and he said, "Oh, she wasn't even born when we did this." And I'm like, "Dad, you know, she's
Oh my
49.
gosh.
She's
Yeah.
49." So it really was a lesson for myself as well. So how do we get the word out to younger people to get their parents more acclimated or more set in their planning? I don't have the answer to it. I think constant education, but as I said, people do these days, at least when they have that moment where they're like, oh my goodness, this is happening, they do go directly to the internet and they do go direct to Google, and they can find the connections they need.
Well, I mean, I agree. Certainly, that's what people are doing. They're going online. They're checking Google reviews. They're checking whatever. They're maybe even talking to family and friends. Hopefully, but there's no substitute, I think, for going to a place, and
Mm-hmm.
especially. I totally agree. It's great to get this list of places, but if you have time and you can just take a drive and pop in unannounced, which I think I totally agree. You want to
Mm-hmm.
see for yourself, is this a place where I'd want to be or where I'd want my parent to be? And yeah,
I mean, a lot of us, a lot of our facilities, most, I will say most, what we would call subacutes and long-term care, offering the two levels, um, we do push respite programs, and we do encourage people to utilize them as an opportunity to test the waters at a
right.
facility. It used to be that you had to book a certain amount of days to stay respite overnight in a facility. And I know my facility in particular are open to doing a 2 or 3 night stay. And sometimes, I'm always encouraging people to sample a facility. Or when friends say to me, I think my mom's ready for that next level of assisted living and possibly even long-term care, because you can do respite at assisted living level too. And so you go in and you try, you stay there, and you can stay when it's not a need because the caregiver's on vacation or the family is on vacation,
Right.
but they're going to be in town and they say, let's try this. Let's go in for 3 or 4 days and see if you like it. And then the family's still local, they can still pop over,
Hmm.
but they can go to, and then knowing that you can put your head down at night and you felt safe about those 3 or 4 nights that your loved one stayed away from home, and having them actually say, I went to bingo today, I went to happy hour, it can help you prepare for the final phases of the actual full move in. And, that's another thing we discuss. I discuss personally when I'm doing presentations at any level, whether it's, church events, or scan events. These are things we talk about when people come over to our expo table and say, what do you offer? And people say, I don't need that. Just like when there's a funeral home being represented, right? They walk right past it, but they don't want to really face the inevitable. But I think if there's a gentle approach and you say, you may not need it now, but there will come a time when either for yourself, your neighbor, your family member, someone you love is going to need a service. So let me tell you
Yes.
a little bit so
Yes.
that you have my card and you have some information. And, I encourage people to keep a folder when you go to these events and put all that information in there, categorize them, home care, rehabs,
Hmm.
hospice, my, I just think that, it's very hard. You can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But if
No.
they have that packet of information tucked away somewhere or sitting in their office, when the time comes, at least they have, like when we do the scan events, they have some information. They have your number and they can call you and say, it's a wonderful thing that you do
Well,
for
thank
the
you.
community. It really is, and it's amazing um, to give them and not only a social outlet, but an educational component so that they are prepared.
Well, as as we're all getting older, and I've gone through it with, with my mom and with friends, and I have people calling me all the time, like, where do I go? What do I do?
Mhm.
And I have to say that it, I get it because we all live in denial that, oh, it's not going to happen to me, but probably happened to you. I don't need this. Yeah, I don't need the funeral place today, but I don't know what tomorrow brings. Or, I just believe in, planning. It also takes the burden off the rest of your family when
Correct.
you've made some plans. And I've come to understand how helpful it is to do this. It's empowering to know that you have this information should you have a problem. You can
Mhm.
say to your family, this is what I want. This is, I fell and I broke my leg. This is where I want to go. But most people just don't do that. So yeah, you're right. Even just compiling it, putting it in a folder, you can, at least you have the folder.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's difficult. Like we said, you can inform, but unfortunately, most healthcare um, urgencies or emergencies um, are the first thing to really open your own eyes to preparedness.
Yes, yes, yes. And I just think the biggest lesson I've learned is that being prepared really takes such a huge burden off your family. Wouldn't you
It's a
want to?
gift.
to do that. Yeah, yeah.
It's
I,
actually a gift to them. I mean, let's face it, not many people are leaving money, right? We're not leaving behind large inheritances these days. The climate, the financial climate has changed so much.
mhm.
Um, and there, yes, some people in different areas are affluent and very well invested and prepared. But if you aren't one of those people, this is the best gift you can give to your children is I have laid out all of my decisions. I have prepaid my funeral. And it should be an open conversation.
Mhm.
It should be common conversation in households so that it's not taboo to speak about.
Well, nobody's getting out of here alive, guys. If you didn't know that, that's my newsflash for you today. None of us are. So let's give that gift to our family, and even just make it easier on yourself. And let me just mention that all of the contact info for Red Bank Center for Rehab and Healing is in the show notes. And if you wanted to reach out to Robin, she is very gracious about consulting with you on almost any topic in this area. And we've got her cell phone number in there as well. So Robin, thank you for that. And I think that that's really a very that's a kindness on your part to do that for other people. But you've got the knowledge, though. You're in the industry.
Thank you. I like advocating for people, especially when
Hmm.
when there's so many questions and so few answers in an emergency or a time when they don't have the information they need.
Yeah, it's
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
Robin, thank you for coming here and sharing your wisdom. I mean, this is I feel like, a big part of what SCAN does is we want to we want to share information. We want you to know about community resources because that's everything. And many times I've said a resource has no value if you don't know it exists. So, Robin, we're going to call you a resource because you are. You
Thank you.
definitely are. All right, well, remember out there, if it's important to you, it's important to us. I'm Andrea Tarr. We'll see you next time on Scan FYI. Bye, everyone, and bye, Robin.
Bye.